Right, I'm going to say a few words about the assessment just to put you on the right tracks. First of all, for part A, and I will do a separate recording for part B. Right, so we're talking about the delivery for RKC in Salford, and we have our assessment criteria there. I think we know what those words mean, hopefully. And this is part A of the assessment. So this exercise is called a précis, which is quite a common exercise in France, hence the word précis. However, it's not an unusual or odd exercise in the outside world, as it were, because companies, when you have a meeting and you're taking notes, effectively you are taking a précis, which is a summary of what people are saying, and that is obviously of use. And then occasionally a director will come with an article or a book or a paper or something and ask you to prepare a brief summary as to what it says. So in practice, this is not an unusual exercise. It is a valuable academic assessment exercise because, frankly, the more people understand about a subject, then the better the summary. And so it's a good way of showing your understanding of the exercise. And then it's useful as well because one of the problems we have these days is the internet, as you will know, and you're not being asked to go on the internet and look up some keywords, find some articles and do a quick cut and paste job of these articles, and that sort of inverted commas learning, which quite frankly isn't helpful at all. So you do not need to go to any other articles, nor do you need to go to the articles that this paper refers to. What we want to have here is a summary of what Van Tulder says. So don't think, oh, he really means write an essay about getting about internationalization motives and keyword that and then write an essay about that. If you do that, you will fail. It's what Van Tulder says. So in your summary, you should be mentioning his name a few times to make sure that what you're saying is well anchored into into the paper itself. So it is a worthwhile exercise, and it's one that is asking you to read the paper carefully. You'll need to read it more than once. You'll need to make notes, and you will need to structure your summary. And I would say that one of the most important things in a précis is that your summary should be well structured so that the reader knows what the structure of Van Tulder's paper is and what the subject is, and well, we'll go into those details in a moment. But just to say, before we do look at the actual paper itself, don't start quoting from the Van Tulder paper or elsewhere. The subtext of that is, I don't understand what he's saying, and therefore I'm going to give you a quote so maybe you understand. So we're not interested in extensive quotes. I know this is slightly different from your other subjects, but this is a different subject, as simple as that. I would say that the difference between international financial management and some of your other subjects is that there is a much wider gap between the academic literature and a master's course. Indeed, even at dissertation level, you will find in finance that the literature is quite difficult unless you've carefully selected your area, and it's really only accessible at PhD level, and that is very different from your other subjects, and that is why the assessment task is relatively isolated from you just going wandering around in the literature, because you will get doing that, and even at lecturer level, the areas have become so specialized that there are many areas in finance and financial management that are only available to a select subset of lecturers in finance. So if it's a problem at that level, then clearly it would be unfair to ask you to go wandering through the literature. So I mean, generally that's why we ask you to keep to the textbooks, and in this case, as you can see, as I've been saying, we would discourage you from wandering around the literature to try and supplement this task. So don't use strategies that you've used in your other modules on the basis that all modules are the same and all learning is learning. This requires a different strategy. So just to go through these points, the article should be available on Blackboard, but you've got sufficient references there to download it from Solar. The main part of your submission should be the summary. There's no need for references and things like that. You're not required to read or quote from any of the cited articles in the paper. We've made that point. And there is this perspective of a developing country, and that enables you to make one or two small comments about the application of these ideas to a developing country. But as it says there, you're not expected to have any specialist knowledge of developing countries other than that they are generally poorer economies seeking to grow. So let's have a quick look at the paper itself. The subject of this paper is hopefully quite well related to any business studies you may have undertaken, and it is a non-technical article, and it's about why firms internationalize. Right? Why do companies become multinationals? Why do they want to go abroad? So, as it says here, this paper presents a framework. It presents a framework, but it also presents a critique of what the existing attempts to conceptualize this problem, how that plays out. Now, in the module itself, we in the first part of the module, we kind of do scene setting. So we do look at this issue of why firms internationalize. We look at some of the basic models that you will see reference to, though I would say there's no clear model there that is generally accepted, and you know, that becomes clearer in the paper. So it's about why do firms internationalize, and that this kind of sets the background, and so it's not a specialized financial area as such, but it is one that is obviously relevant to finance. And just briefly, in the part B of your assessment, that is about the balance of payments and international trade, which is also kind of one of these background subjects against which financial management is played out. So it's really quite an academic question that's being asked here, and that is, how should we be looking at the idea of internationalization? Now, the first part is about the question itself. Why is it an important question? And you will see that in any paper, in any academic paper, certainly in the finance area, that is always the start. Why have you got this title? Why are you writing it? Why is it important? And in any précis, obviously that must play a part. Otherwise, the person reading it is going to say, well, why am I bothering to read this? So this is the central issue that he addresses first of all. And I can't find it exactly here, but I know he makes it in a number of points on the paper, and that is a simple thing. Well, if this is the question, why not ask businesses what the answer is? Just go and ask them. And his answer to that is, well, it reminds me of a textbook, in a well-known textbook, where they say, well, businessmen act wiser than they speak, which is really that businesses don't sit back and rationalize their motives in a kind of academic framework. They do what they feel is right, and sometimes they rationalize it in a way that is acceptable to the listener. So now I'm not making this up. It is there in the paper. I just can't find it at the moment. But that is for you to look at and see whether that is indeed the case. Right. So he first of all looks at the question. Now, in this section, he reviews and classifies the existing literature, giving reasonably good descriptions as to what they are. It becomes clearer on a second reading of the complete paper. So these are the three groups he has: intrinsic, mixed and extrinsic motives, and you can certainly have a look at that. This is just the point I was making earlier. I've not highlighted it because it's especially important, but just to reiterate the reason why we're having to conceptualize it as opposed to simply ask managers is that they like to rationalize it into legitimize their decisions with reference to more rational sounding intrinsic motives. So he puts it in this context of intrinsic and extrinsic modelling. So it's there buried in the paper. Right, so he talks about his intrinsic and extrinsic, and then he talks about mixed motives. And I leave you to have a read of that and summarise it in as good a way as you can. And then we come to this section, which is kind of a more detailed critique, or as opposed to description, of what the existing literature is about. And I have to say that this is kind of like a very good literature review that he's carrying out, because he looks at themes, and the themes dominate the papers he's looking at. He's saying these papers here belong to this theme, these papers belong to that theme, rather than what I call the washing line approach, is where you just hop from one paper to another. So anyway, this is his critique of the existing approaches, which he calls a fragmented discipline. And here on this table he gives a little summary. Whether this should be part of your précis or not is a decision obviously you have to make, but I think it is a decision. It is not a given that you should, and you may decide that it's not worth the space, and it doesn't elaborate very greatly on the paper, but that is a decision for you to make. In looking at his critique, you can see it is a critique of textbooks, which I think is useful, because we need to get away from the view that all textbooks are kind of preaching what you must accept. You can take a critical attitude towards textbooks, and this is what he does. Right, so we get down to consequences, and this is where he kind of continues with his critique, but in greater detail. I think I might have said this one was in greater detail. Well, it just kind of gets down to more and more detail, if you like, as to his critique. So you need to have a read of that. Just to make the point here, this highlighted sentence where he really talks about the rather static analysis, the classification of multinational companies' motives, that in his opinion lacks dynamism. Now he talks about dynamics, and dynamics is just a term is used for analysis of change over time, and that's the critical feature. How do these classifications move in relation to each other is what turns out to be later on, as you read, one of the bases of his modelling. And so I just thought I would highlight that. Just scrolling back a bit, just a small point here. He does talk about rational and non-rational motives, non-rational by which he means behavioural aspects, and I think he makes some very limited comments about that later on, but he essentially presents a kind of rational model. And here he starts, that's from our previous comment, he starts headlining his critique. So that's fine. So after his rather exhaustive critique, he starts to present his alternative framework, as he calls it, within which these things are supposed to move in a dynamic way. So I will leave you to ponder on those tensions, motivational tensions as he calls them. And then we come to his diagrams, and again you may or may not decide to reproduce these diagrams, but if you do, then they must be clearly explained. You don't want to fall into the trap of the reader thinking that, well, you've not explained it clearly, you don't understand it, and now you're expecting me to understand it. So if it isn't clear to you, don't include it. If it is clear to you, include it. And that, again, I leave up to you. So there's no right answer here, right? That's what I'm saying. So this is now his description of the model. So he has his starting position, then he goes on to his trigger event that is presumably where they start to internationalize, and this looks a little bit of a mess, I have to say. Then internal alignment, and then external alignment. So that's the nature of the model, and the contents of which is explained at length here, and it is for you to summarize. Okay, so I hope I have, we come to the conclusion there. There's the external alignment, and just a brief conclusion here. So his actual conclusion here is essentially that the models must be a little bit more elaborate and holistic in their approach for scholars to produce relevant analyses. Okay, so I hope I have perhaps lifted some of the mystery that may surround this exercise. It is limited to 1,000 words quite deliberately, because limiting is part of the exercise, that you do not make it too long, and that rather reflects the practical view in a business. If they ask you to prepare a report, a good director will say keep it to 1 page. They don't want to have something. Now, 1 page is about 300 words, so we've given you more than that, but at the same time, producing excessively lengthy reports doesn't impress anyone at higher management levels. So that's the exercise, and I hope you feel that it is a little bit more doable. You've got your tutors and support, and you must make use of them. Okay, thank you.